You are clear to enter. Welcome to Pizza Planet.
Welcome to Pizza Planet,
a Pixar podcast.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Gareth.
And we're your delivery guys.
Bringing you a square box of round, hot, cheesy Pixar goodness.
We've got a bounty of slices in today's feast, so let's dig in.
Ding dong.
Yes?
Pizza delivery.
Oh, sweet. I just placed the order, so you came really fast. Nice job.
Yeah, no problem. It's a broccoli pizza that you ordered, right?
Oh, broccoli pizza. No, that's disgusting.
I'm fearful that that's all I have. So,
well, I'm angry that you got my order wrong.
well, I'm sad that you don't like it.
Well, I was sad for a while because the podcast was on hiatus and now we back.
We back. But that's with an asterisk. Should we tell the good listeners what's going on, Ben?
So basically, Gareth and I, we've been busy with family life. Gareth had a kid, I had a kid, and it's been amazing just being dads and taking that time to really be with our families and grow our families. And but we have been so excited and we've been wanting to get back to the podcast. So we've been mulling over it for a while, figuring out like when the right time would be, but also how we do it with our schedules. And so we initially wanted to call this season 3. But then we realized, well, we're not going to be able to release at a consistent monthly schedule like we did before. So right. We're kind of maybe calling it more of like an era.
Yeah, because before we were able to do it in a season where we're releasing monthly episodes. We are not going to be releasing monthly episodes. Instead, we're just going to be doing episodes when we can. And that might mean you might get 2 episodes in a row, like month to month. Other times you might have to wait a few months. So we do apologize, but it is for a good cause. It's so that we can spend adequate time with our families as they grow. And we're also, with those new responsibilities, having career changes and things that are just taking up more of our time. But we don't want to give up on the podcast. So no need to worry about us leaving. Just when you'll see us next, we can't say.
Yes, exactly. And for all intents and purposes, let's just go ahead and call it season 3, but it's going to be like a relaxed schedule because that's really what it is. This is going to be
season 3 implies an ending.
Because I do like that this is a new part of life, and at some point that'll change and maybe we'll have more.
So once we have our second set of kids, then it'll be season 4.
There you go.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Each season is based on a kid.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we just want to say welcome back, Gareth.
Welcome back.
It's great to be back with you, man.
Thank you. It's great to be back with you. And it's great to be back doing podcasting again because it's been a very long time. We're very rusty, so bear with us. But as far as the rest of the podcast goes, hopefully it'll be similar to what you remember. Today we are doing a review of the new movie Inside Out 2.
Let's go, baby. Yeah, Inside Out 2 just came out, and this is a perfect timing for us to get back into the podcast,
Yeah. So the movie, full transparency, we are recording this several weeks after the movie came out. We actually both saw the movie, I think, a week ago, right? Was it a week ago?
Yeah, yep, I saw it last week.
Okay, yeah, and so it's not fresh in our memories, but we did see it, and we are now getting around to talking about it, because we haven't talked at all. We haven't talked at all yet. We were both very tense before the movie, well, I was tense before the movie came out, because I had certain expectations. Mm-hmm. So, Ben, what did you think?
Well, I'm excited to talk about it with you, man. Also, I don't know if we told the audience this, but we're not in person like we normally are. This is a remote recording.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to, previous seasons we would record in person. Now we're doing it remotely.
So yeah, dude, no, I'm so excited to talk about this with you because yeah, there's a lot writing on this sequel. We've talked about this before about sequels and how, of course you get pumped for it, but also you're like, don't ruin this world for me. Inside Out, love this movie. Inside Out 1 when
Yeah.
it came out, I was like 2015, I believe. I was like, Pixar is back. That was the movie that got me like just totally in love with Pixar again, on fire. I love that movie so much. A lot of expectations for this movie. I tried to go into it like, all right, let's keep an open mind here because some of the sequels in recent years have been, they've been okay for me, in my opinion. But right from the get go from this movie, I was drawn in and I really enjoyed it. But what about you, man? What did you think about it overall?
Yeah. I had a similar reaction to the original Inside Out. Like, it is one of my top ranking Pixar films. It's the movie that really solidified Pete Docter for me as my favorite Pixar director. And like between that and Up and Monsters Inc., those three movies, I just feel like you can't get better than that. And the fact that it was that good and it didn't feel like it needed a sequel. Sometimes there are movies that are made in such a way where it doesn't feel like you need more time with that in that world, and other times you do feel like you need more time in that world. And like an example would be The Incredibles. Like when that ended, it felt like a world we could explore more. It felt like there was more stories to be told with those characters.
Right.
And I'm not making any comments on what I thought of Incredibles 2, but that was a warranted sequel in my opinion. But then you've got, Finding Nemo, where the whole premise is this epic parable about like crossing the ocean to save an individual, and I feel like it's poetic. It stands on its own. It's perfectly resolved. It's not a world that needs further explanation or exploration. So, in my opinion, Finding Dory was an unnecessary sequel. Again, not commenting on the quality of that film.
Yeah.
Inside Out 2 is for me in that latter category, where it's like, did we need Inside Out 2? No, we did not. There's no warranty. It is not warranted. But all that to say, I was relieved as soon as the credits started rolling. I was like, that wasn't bad. Like, it was an unoffensive, quaint sequel. I would say a la Monsters University. I know that's a prequel, not a sequel, but like similar feeling to that, where it was like it's a different movie than the first one. But it definitely didn't feel like it ruined the first one.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought it was going to.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I was very worried.
Yes. Yeah. No, for sure. I definitely agree with you. And I think that as we'll get into this more, I would almost go to bat and say that I think this movie, I do think actually adds a lot to the world. And in a lot of ways, I think kind of forms, in my opinion, a rare kind of like, it's not a trilogy because it's only two, but in that vein, like the way that Toy Story 2 when it came out, it just deepened. And so I'm excited to talk about it as we go more into this. Where's a good place to start, man?
Well, I mean, let's talk about what the movie's about. So, Riley, the heroine of the original film, well, not heroine, but like the subject of the first film, she's now a teenager, and so she's hitting puberty, and we're meeting or reacquainting ourselves with her 5 emotions that are basically driving her from inside her head. You've got fear, anger, disgust, sadness, and then the main character is joy. It introduced us to this new idea of Riley's beliefs. I don't remember what they called it, but you had this new part of the what is the location that they work in? The emotions. Do you remember what it's called? Like the console is that specific like control board that they use, but the console is located in like this home that they live in. Anyways, in the center of their home, there's now like this place where memories. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to remember because it's been a week, but they use the memories to basically inform Riley's beliefs, and so
Right.
that becomes kind of a pivotal plot device going forward in the movie.
Yes, yeah, they're in the. I believe they call it just headquarters. But
Yeah, headquarters. Yeah.
it's the
Oh,
headquarters.
I get it. Headquarters.
Dude, that's awesome. I never got that.
And they've got quarters there too. Like we see in this movie, we see their beds, in their their room where they all sleep.
yeah.
Those are their quarters. The
Hey.
headquarters.
Wow. See, genius.
Yeah. So then demo day happens. We saw this in the trailer where all the little, I don't know what they're called, but the little construction guys basically start tearing the place apart and getting ready for puberty. And that's when the puberty emotions start showing up. There's anxiety. She's a major player in the story. And then you've got her entourage, which is envy, embarrassment, ennui, and is that it? It's just 4 of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the guest appearances of nostalgia.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. That's not really a spoiler, but yeah. So it then becomes very I don't know how much to get into the plot, but it basically just turns into this story of the control, the fight for control between Joy and her kind of loyalists, if that's what you want to call them, and then Anxiety and her loyalists. So, and that really becomes the plot of the movie. And then you're seeing this all unfold in conjunction with Riley's story. Now, this is one comment I did find interesting. I've seen multiple people point out one thing this movie does differently, that, not saying it's better, but definitely is interesting, is that it gives Riley more screen time. Because in the original film, she feels like an accessory to Joy's story, really, which I think works. I think that makes that movie good. It makes it work because it's Joy's story.
Yeah.
But in this movie, you have so many. You now have 9, 10 emotions all sharing the screen, and then on top of that, we're also seeing Riley's story really unfold more. With more invest. Like, it wants you to be invested in her story and not just because of Joy, like in the first movie.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And I think that's what makes the movie special, is that we really get a chance to get to know Riley more. I love that they... I don't know how much they aged her. I know they aged her. Do you know how many years older she is? I mean, she's 13 in this movie, but...
Yeah, it looks like she'd probably be 3 or 4 years. I don't know, because in the first movie I thought she was 10, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, she definitely aged a couple of years, and I have to say, this is something that we've talked about before, but I love when sequels age the characters instead of making it take place right after the first movie, because it adds a layer of interest and newness into the story. It gives a chance for something new. And I love that instead of just trying to come up with a story for Inside Out 2 that's right after the first one, I love that they let her age. And now we've got an interesting story, because now we've got puberty, which obviously is a huge stage of this entire movie, which is the new emotions that come when someone hits puberty. So I love that the aging the characters allowed for this, what feels even more new in the story. And another thing is that I definitely thought that they're going to go into the route of she's with puberty, this is going to be all about romance and everything. And so but that's not what the story is, and I think it's safe. I don't think this is a spoiler. This is more of just a general synopsis thing. So really, the plot of the movie deals with Riley's and her two best friends, and how they're in eighth grade and they're on the hockey team together, and they're really excited about playing in high school together. And the kind of the big bomb, the information bomb that really sets the movie going forward is that Riley finds out that her friends are going to go to a different school. So like she's in a sense like she's going to be like losing those friendships in a way, because now she'll be going to a school where she doesn't know anyone, and she's going to be playing on a team with without her friends. And so that sets the stage of this whole movie. And so these emotions of anxiety and embarrassment and envy, it's like, it's so great. It's such good writing because it's instead of focusing on, again, like romance and relationships like that, being the stage of Riley in her puberty, it's all about like the social implications of friendships and navigating that area of life. And I love that because it's so relatable. It's less niche than romance, which people in 13, right? Like probably a small percentage of people are actually like in super romantic.
And also romance at that age, like I don't want to offend any 13-year-olds listening. Romance at that age is not like that life-changing for other people to witness. Like it's not going to be so compelling that a 13-year-old has a boyfriend to an adult who has had an adult relationship. And so, that's probably smart that they avoided that. But yes, random fact check. She was 11 in the first movie, and then Riley's 13. You're right. She was 13 in the new one. So only 2-year difference, which is super strange when you think about like these friendships she now has and like how impactful they are. But then again, when you're a kid, like 2 years is a long time to be friends with somebody. So
yeah, right.
I don't know. I think that's really interesting. But yeah, no, that is the plot of the movie, and that is I think it is a very nuanced take on the issues surrounding puberty, because they aren't just taking easy low-hanging fruit. Like you said, it's not about romance, and it's not even just about like teen angst either, because that's kind of what it looked like to me. What it was going to be is, one of the main characters is anxiety and she's taking over, and it's like, okay, this is just going to be a movie that's about a teenager who's going through a lot of teen angst. And that kind of is it, but it's not portrayed in a way that is annoying. It's not portrayed in a way that's whiny. It's not portrayed in a way that's like distant. If you are or have ever been a teenager, I feel like they crafted the best, most relatable version of a teenager for this movie that makes you go, oh, okay, like that's not just relatable, but like it's also endearing. Like even when she's going through like moments where she's like lashing out at her parents and stuff like that, it doesn't necessarily feel like they're doing it just to do it. But that actually kind of ties in with one thing I shared with my wife when we were leaving the theater, that I think this movie did actually better than the first movie, and I think this is because of the heavier focus on Riley, is that in the first movie, oftentimes the Riley storyline and her behavior feels like a direct product of the storytelling happening inside of her head. And so it's like they wrote that story first, and then everything else that happens to Riley just happens because of what's happening in her head.
Right.
And therefore her behavior doesn't always feel natural. And I don't think that hurts that film, because again, that's Joy's movie.
Yeah.
But it definitely doesn't feel as natural as looking at this movie and Inside Out 2, where Riley's behavior feels like it is its own movie, and it's natural, and it's what like you would expect her to do. So like for her, for example, in a moment where anger is taking control and lashing out, it's not done in a way where it's like, oh well, we just needed to give Riley a little tantrum because what's the story that's happening inside her head has anger taking control. No, it's like it's all like flows naturally, I feel like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like that at any point they're making Riley do things that don't fit her character just because of what's happening inside her head.
Right. No, I totally agree. It feels like everything's like more holistic in this movie. Like everything's cohesive more with the story that's playing out with Riley, and then interior. It is almost like a flop. It's like the first movie was like in the mind, and then we get some Riley. Now it's like kind of flips that, which I think is great.
Yeah. And what did you think of the animation? Because I know that a lot of people have been talking about in this movie. The animation does look beautiful. It's, what you'd expect from Pixar. It looks like in the live action, what did I call it that? In the real world sequences, you have really detailed, realistic looking textures and really good looking hair and all that stuff. But then in the head world, whatever we're calling it, the mind world, you have these really cool metaphysical textures. Like Joy's skin looks like, some kind of like fuzzy, like translucent, I don't know what to call it, but it's like really interesting, otherworldly looking textures and matter that makes up that world. And then you're mixing it with other mediums too. This is the thing that I heard multiple people talk about, is how this movie has a sequence that involves 2D animation.
Yeah, right.
As well as a spot on recreation of like PlayStation 1 level graphics, but appearing and interacting in the world of the mind, and it's comical to look at. It's also a little bit cringy, actually, because it's like you know why the movement is behaving the way it's behaving, but like seeing it in a Pixar film just feels wrong.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is my childhood. I was living in a 10 frames per second world.
Yeah. So anyways, I thought the animation was really good. Did you have any insights on that?
Yeah, I agree. It was beautiful. I was thinking there were several close-ups that really showed like joy, and I think it was anger too, where you could see this texture you're talking about of the emotions. And I remember thinking, I'm like, whoa, that's really interesting. I remember thinking, wait, did we get that in Inside Out 1? Like, did we get those textures in Inside Out 1 of the characters, or is that a new thing that was added?
Oh, that like the fuzzy skin. Yeah. No, they had that in the first one.
Okay.
But I would say in this one, I don't know. I don't know that it looks that much better, because I mean the animation in 2015 was still like stellar. That was the same year we got The Good Dinosaur with their ultra realistic water and trees. But
right.
But no, I'm pretty sure their character models have like minute improvements,
like details.
So there might just be like slightly, like for example, the particle count on Joy's face might have been slightly higher in this movie, but I can't say that for sure. I'm guessing based on the way it looks.
Yeah, I think those close-ups are just maybe more unique to Inside Out 2, that we're getting some more extra detail just within the framing of some of the shots.
That's true.
More Pizza Planet blasting your way after the break.
Like, dude, have you ever hung 10 on the EAC before?
Like, no, man. What's the EAC?
Oh, intro. That's the East Australian Current, dude.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, dude. Well, hey, like, now's your chance. It's like a vortex tube of awesomeness. You can do sick flips, shell grabs, and 360s. Plus, the views of the sea are totally righteous.
Righteous!
Sign up now to register for Crush's next tour and come ride the EAC. Side effects from the tour include possible headaches, nausea, and vomiting. If you sense that you might be hurling, please note, no hurling on Crush's shell. He recently waxed it.
Bold, dramatic, heroic. What separates our primal existence from the defenders that walk among us? If not our humanity, then surely enlightenment. Designed for gods, harnessed by mere mortals. Chic and powerful. Edna Mode's Summer Collection. Luck favors the prepared.
And the full line is machine washable, darling. That's a new feature.
Hold on tight. We are re-entering the Pizza Planet quadrant.
But yeah, I'm curious to hear a little bit about kind of going back to this introduction of the belief system for Riley, because I loved it, and it's something that as we continue to talk about, I think like it adds, I think, so much depth to the movie and to the world of Inside Out in a way that feels so natural and just like makes sense. Within the story and within like the mind. And I was curious to hear like what you thought about overall like the introduction of the belief system and and just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I liked it, because initially when they introduced it, I was just like, oh, this is going to get really convoluted. They're introducing another mind mechanic that wasn't in the first movie. But as the movie went along, I kind of realized, yeah, this does make sense, because there is an age, usually around 12 or 13. I feel like this has been, psychologically studied, that you take in a lot more vital information at kind of a specific vital age. And don't quote me on that. Like I haven't done any research based on that. It's just stuff I've heard before. And it makes sense based on my own personal experience that you really do start forming your own fundamental beliefs around that age. So as I was watching the movie, I was thinking about that, and I was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense that Riley would not have had this like utility back when she was 11, but now that she's 13, it's starting to be used quite a bit. And the way they use it in the story, because for those who haven't seen the movie, basically what we're describing is, as I mentioned, these memories feed into this belief system that's made up of all these strings, and each string is kind of like a different belief. And then they all come together, and at the converge point, it kind of, you hear Riley's voice saying what she believes. And I could be wrong, but I think the idea is that it's supposed to be the converge point is what she believes about herself. And at the beginning, I won't spoil anything from later, but at the beginning of the movie, it's her core belief, I guess, is that
She's a good person.
She's a good person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a cool idea for that world, and I guess I can buy into the fact that it didn't exist, back when the first movie, when she was 11. So yeah, I don't know. It was a cool mechanic for what they used it for, and I think it makes sense on a psychological level especially as a teaching tool, because that's what these movies really are, is helping kids understand psychology, kind of.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, so I watched it with my brother when we were visiting family down in Georgia, and one of the first things my brother told me, he was like, "Dude, I wish I could have been a kid and watched this movie." He's like, I'm jealous of the kids that are seeing this movie right now, because it's teaching them so much, like you said, about psychology and about their emotions and how important they are. And so this like, it forms this like kind of like orb, like not really orb, almost like a spherical kind of DNA, not even DNA, some sort of like strand shape thing that I believe is like her identity, kind of like Riley's identity, her sense of self. And like Gareth said, like all these beliefs about who she is that have come from different memories. And so the very beginning of the movie, one of the things that is established is we see a couple like bad memories that the emotions refer to some memories as like, oh, that was a bad memory, or oh, that was awkward, let's get rid of that. So they get the memory orb and they put it in this like little like pinball plunger almost thing, and then they boom and shoot it, and it like goes way down this long tube, and then kind of ends in this like big pile of like almost like a landfill of like of memories, and they're like, well, we don't want that, and then so that kind of sets the stage of like of like these bad memories, and that becomes a plot device throughout the film that we won't get into now, but certainly like the idea and the themes of like of good memories and bad memories and how those affect your beliefs becomes a huge part of the movie. And certainly like almost like you could almost go as far as to say like it almost deals with like trauma in a way of like if you go through something that's really bad or negative and you have that memory, and that can become part of your belief, which can then become a part of your identity. And it actually adds a whole element, at least for me, of like empathy for, you know, for myself, but also like for people who like really are really troubled, you know, or maybe like really are not in a good place in life. It's like, oh, well, dang, like they probably went through something that caused them to, you know, believe something bad about themselves. And now that's a part of them. And now they're acting out of that place of pain, because we see that with Riley in the movie. We see what happens when her identity becomes tied to bad things, and she starts to believe bad things about herself, and how that affects her decision making, which is something that's unique to this movie, because in Inside Out, she is more she's not really dealing with that kind of concept, and so I just really feel like it adds a lot in the psychological realm to this movie.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I do think that that you use the word empathy, and I think we've used that word before on the podcast to describe other movies that are like really, like, I think we said this in our Turning Red review. It's really cool to see when a movie is focused on a specific demographic, but it is not making the movie just for that demographic. Like, this movie speaks a ton to young teens going through puberty, going through a certain phase of life, especially young women, and then it puts it packages it in a way that it's like accessible to everyone. So we're a couple of how old are we, Ben? 31?
Yeah, 32.
32? I'm 32. We're a couple of 32-year-old guys that, you know, can now have this frame of reference for empathy for people who are not like us, and that's really cool. That, like, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. But yeah, what did you think about? So I don't know if you're ready to talk about this yet, but the other emotions. So we get introduced to anxiety, we get introduced to embarrassment and envy, and ennui. I keep mispronouncing it, I think, but anyways.
Yeah, they were great. Yeah, they really add in a lot to the character, and they, like I said, they really represent like a lot of the emotions that I mean, as adults we deal with, and especially teens going through puberty. And so yeah, no, I thought the character design was really interesting. With seeing like anxiety just looks like she's like had a pot of coffee and she's just like super and like it's almost kind of creepy look in her face, which kind of adds a lot as she kind of becomes this character that starts to really like have a negative impact on Riley. But yeah, the other characters are great too, and yeah, Embarrassment's really cute with his design with his hoodie and
his butt crack, his little butt crack.
His little crack. And,
I love his little butt crack.
That sounds so weird out of context, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, anyone who hasn't seen the movie, I'm pretty sure they show it in the trailer. Embarrassment is you know, curling up into the fetal position, and then his butt crack is exposed. But it's all done in taste, I think. The for me, the best part about introducing these new characters was that they didn't feel, I I don't know how to describe this. They didn't feel like they were breaking the lore as much as I thought they were going to.
Oh,
to
yeah.
me, I was really worried because in the first movie we saw that Riley, her parents, everyone else in the movie had the same 5 emotions running her mind. And in this movie, you've got anxiety, which to me that's a facet of fear, right? And then
true.
like
Yeah.
same as embarrassment. Embarrassment is another facet of fear. But you have like these kind of vaguely linked emotions that seem arbitrarily picked to become manifest characters in this new movie because of puberty. And it makes you go, well, where are these characters in her parents and all these other people? Well, I mean, it kind of explains that in this movie, kind of, but also not really. What I've inferred from the movie is that these are characters who take on temporary prominence during puberty, and probably your teen years, but are not necessarily permanent fixtures at the control board.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they might hang around, but they're not like full timers, like the main 5. And the reason you have these vaguely linked, embarrassment and fear being kind of related is largely because embarrassment serves a different function, a more specific function, where fear is actually protecting Riley from things that are dangerous, mostly like physical danger. And then embarrassment is actually more about like the social, embarrassment. And so I don't know. I feel like they made those distinctions adequately to the point where I was satisfied that I'm like, okay, this doesn't break the lore. I think these, characters are interesting.
Yeah, that's a good explanation, because I also had a similar concern about the necessity of them, but that makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, the cast for this movie obviously doubles because you've got the 5 new emotions, or sorry, 4. Well, technically 5, 4 new emotions.
4, yeah.
But I really, really liked the casting for those emotions. So you have Maya Hawke, daughter of Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, voicing anxiety. And I thought she was perfect because she has that kind of like raspy, on edge type of voice, quality of voice that works perfectly for the embodiment of anxiety. And then you've got the girl from The Bear, whose name I do not remember how to pronounce, but she's doing Envy. And then Paul Walter Hauser he has like one line, his embarrassment. But I thought he was awesome as that character, even if he spoke very little. And then who am I forgetting? Oh,
Boredom.
Yeah, there was I don't remember who voices Ennui, but she was also excellent. And then they recast 2 characters. Now, this is one thing I was upset about, because replacing Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader just seems like
they did that?
really. Huh. Oh yeah, you didn't know about that?
Well, I didn't know about Bill Hader, but yeah.
Yeah, so this is actually something that's caused a lot of kind of I don't want to say disgruntled fans, but there's been apparently reports that Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling were both like lowballed when they were negotiating their new contracts to be in this movie, and so Disney did not want to pay them very well. They were willing to pay, obviously, Amy Poehler a ton to come back, but they were, I guess, more expendable. So they were like, yeah, if you don't want to, do the movie for this amount, then we'll just recast you. And so they brought in, I don't remember the name of Mindy Kaling's replacement, but she was not, I don't know, in my opinion, she was probably the weakest casting in the whole movie. Not because she was bad as discussed, but she didn't have the same portrayal of disgust. like she wasn't doing Mindy Kaling's version of the character. Whereas with Fear, Tony Hale was not doing Bill Hader either, to be fair, but he was at least doing something that I thought was as good as Bill Hader. As much as I hate to say that, because I love Bill Hader and I think he was brilliant as Fear, but Tony Hale, if you're going to replace anyone, replace Bill Hader with anyone, it's got to be Tony Hale. So I thought that he was okay, but I was really disappointed with Disgust.
Oh yeah.
You might even say I was a little bit disgusted.
Oh, yikes. Well, I wanted to see one thing that I forgot to ask you about is what did you think about the puns of different things in the, well, they weren't really puns, but what did you think of the use of the sarcasm and the brainstorm?
That was amazing. I loved the sarcasm. That was mwah. That was like Pixar humor / like storytelling at its finest, because it was storytelling. It wasn't a pun for nothing. Yeah. It wasn't a pun for nothing, because you had an actual story beat where Riley is actually sarcastic, not for no reason, and then that causes a chasm in the landscape of her mind that creates a obstacle for these characters to overcome. And so it's like all amazing. Of these different elements working together perfectly only because a pun works. Right. Like if that pun didn't work, they wouldn't have been able to do that.
Right.
And that's the beauty of Pixar and this specific movie.
Oh, 100%. And the brainstorm is also equally as perfect. And another one that's, it's not actually mentioned, but it is also in the film, is the anxiety attack, which we won't get into, but also another clever use. Like, again, like you said, it's a pun that's actually making sense in the world. Like Riley's experiencing something that is linked to then this to happen, and it all works simultaneously. So, well, we've got a lot to talk about for spoilers. So before we get into spoilers, why don't we go ahead and review this thing?
2 peps. We got 2 peps ready to go.
Okay. So, what was your pizza rating out of 10 slices, Benjamin?
So for
his name's not Benjamin, by the way. Don't call him that.
Just Ben. I'm just Ben. Anywhere else I be.
Oh, is that what you're giving Inside Out to?
Oh, no.
Hey, that's not a Pixar movie.
All right. So this was tough. I really, really like this movie, and I'll get into more of why I loved it so much. I really struggled with where I was going to put it at, but I ended up landing at a 9.5 slices.
Dang.
Yep.
Well, I could not do that. I apologize. I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
For me, it just isn't. To me, it's nowhere near as good as the first one, and I do need to iterate that very clearly. We're saying a lot of positive things, and this movie is nowhere near as good as the first one. So if you go into this movie with the expectations that it's gonna be Inside Out 2, no. This movie is a good Pixar movie, but it is not Inside Out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sir. But yeah, no, it's an 8 out of 10 for me. And I'll tell you where it ranks out of the 28 Pixar films.
Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
Go ahead.
I have it currently at, let me find it, number 17 out of 28. So kind of like just the top of the bottom third, you know?
Nice. I ranked mine at number 11.
Sweet.
So
that's actually pretty high. So I'm looking at my list and seeing that's a significant ranking.
Yeah,
I will say.
it really is. Yeah.
So you loved this movie.
Oh, I love this movie. Yeah, I really loved it. And initially, I gave it a 90 or a nine slices because I felt like it was really really good, but wasn't quite what Inside Out 1 was. But the more I analyzed the movie, I just couldn't find a lot of faults with, like, everything just works with the movie. And maybe I'll change my mind. Maybe it'll go lower as time goes on. But like when you analyze the movie, at least so far for me, like I just can't find a lot of faults. And I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. It is not Inside Out 1. I didn't bawl my eyes out the way that I did Inside Out 1. There was so many like Pixar feels moments in Inside Out 1. There was just so many times when I was watching the movie thinking, like, actively thinking, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm watching classic Pixar happen in front of my very eyes. Like, I am watching Finding Nemo. I am watching WALL-E right now. This is crazy. Like, I remember, like, that's what it was when I watched Inside Out 1 for the first time in theater. And so with this movie, I'm like, yeah, I didn't have that reaction. I didn't leave the theater being like, that was the greatest thing I've ever seen. But I remember leaving the theater being like, that was really good. And the more I've analyzed it, I just can't find a lot of holes in it. And so that's why I place it so high, because it's just a great movie. There's not a lot of flaws. It adds so much to the world of Inside Out too. And again, with this belief system that's added, it adds so much depth to the story. And I think in some ways takes Inside Out, the world of Inside Out, deeper than the first movie. And so I just can't help but like not find a lot of faults with it. And I mean, I guess my biggest critique would be, I mean, maybe they could have gone a little.
They could have rehired Bill Hader.
Then it would be
give him the money. Justice for Bill.
There were some moments, I think, in Inside Out 1 that were just so touching that I feel like maybe that's what I would say that is what's missing from Inside Out 2, is that there weren't a whole lot of moments that I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just so emotional. Like we didn't get that. So I give you that.
Yeah. I was going to get into that in spoilers, because that's exactly my biggest problem with this movie. So, do you want to go ahead and talk spoilers?
2319! We've got a 2319!
We've got a spoiler leak! We've got a spoiler leak!
So, yeah, I do feel like the third act of this movie has a lot of those moments that are engineered to be Pixar feels moments. And they didn't necessarily hit like organic Pixar feels moments. I feel like we've talked about this on the podcast before, but there are Pixar movies that actually hit. Like, they make you choked up, they make your eyes well up, you start tearing up, shed a tear. Like, some people are bawling their eyes out, and that happens in certain movies where I feel like the those moments haven't been engineered so much as just earned. And then you've got other Pixar movies where those moments are not forced, but they definitely are more transparent about what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. They're going, hey, we know that you're watching a Pixar movie, so we're giving you what we know you want, which is a Pixar feels moment. Right. And it's literally almost that meta in this movie, where it gets to the moments where you're supposed to cry, and it's just like, well, now I'm disappointed that I'm not crying. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it is it's the disappointment that Pixar is giving you this opportunity and you're not taking it. In the first movie, you're right. I was a mess for a number of reasons. But yeah, that movie actually just hit these organic spots in pulled on certain heartstrings that were not necessarily something you were anticipating at the time. Mm-hmm. But then this movie has this whole build up, and you kind of know where it's going. It to me, it feels like a flattened version of the Pixar formula.
Sure.
And it's not bad. Again, I still think it's a great movie. I gave it 8 stars. But we're talking about the end of the movie where we see a very visceral depiction of an anxiety attack, like where Riley is having these actual I don't know, like a physical reaction to her anxiety.
Yeah.
And anxiety, of course, on the inside of her head is completely out of control. You've got this like whirlwind of emotion that is emanating from her. And I do think I'll take this moment to just comment. I do think another weakness for me with this movie is its lack of focus, because you do have so many interesting characters to look at that it pulls away from Joy. I think that Joy is the heroine of this movie. She was the heroine of the first movie. But while the first movie felt like Joy's movie, feels like Joy is playing third fiddle in this movie to Anxiety and Riley.
Yeah.
And that might look like, it might work in this case. And you might not leave the theater going, oh, that was weird. But when you stop and think about it, you're like, yeah, there might have been a little bit too many characters and giving a little bit too much attention to Riley for us to really, really have a solid character arc for Joy. Now, she does have a character arc, but I don't think it is as strong as the first movie because she's sharing so much of the emotional weight of the film with Anxiety and Riley.
Yeah, I think the arc in the first one had to do with Joy learning that sadness is essential,
Yes.
and then we see that the core memories can be a mix of emotions. They don't all have to be joy-filled memories. They can be a sadness. A sadness can be a memory of sadness. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And so with this movie, we like by the end. We learn that that like it's kind of like that Riley is like a mix of good and bad memories, that like she can have like good things and bad things can be a part of who she is, and then that's okay. Like it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to have faults. And because that's the arc that Joy goes on is, remember the beginning, she was trying to get rid of all the bad memories, get those out of here. Well, all of those bad memories, they seep into the belief system, and all these strings become, these like bad memories, which then is how like Anxiety like kind of takes its control. We see her bringing all these like bad things, bad memories, like we see her bringing these into the belief system, and then by the end they all like get in there. And so there's a line that Anxiety has. I probably don't have it word for word, but it's something along the lines of like, we can't control who Riley is and who Riley becomes. And so that's when, and it's interesting coming from Anxiety because she's trying to like have a hold on her the whole time. Well, that makes her a really good, like, because she's kind of like a villain, Anxiety. That makes it really strong coming from her, that she learns the lesson that we can't control Riley, because that's exactly what Joy was trying to do.
Right.
She was trying to control Riley, and so I feel like Joy does have an arc here, and I do view Anxiety as more of a villain rather than like a fighting for the lead.
Right. And to be clear, I wasn't saying Joy didn't have an arc. I think that she becomes a less memorable character because of Anxiety and because of Riley's prominent role in this movie.
Sure.
But you did say something that's interesting. You're talking about the parallel between Joy and Anxiety and their fight for control.
Right.
This is just me hypothesizing off the top of my head, a stream of consciousness. Is there a parallel with Riley's story where she's trying to control her friends? Or is that just in my head?
Yeah, because she kind of abandons her friends. She kind of is like,
true.
see you, and goes towards the popular hockey players.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe that's a bad thought, but I don't know. There is a lot to Riley's character that I feel like if that was thematically tied with with Joy and Anxiety's stories in a way that was like very like obvious by the end of the movie. You're walking away from it and going like, oh yeah, that was the same lesson learned for all the characters. I think that would be really interesting. And I'm not saying that's not what it is, but like I didn't walk away with that. I walked away going, oh, Anxiety had a story and Joy had a story and Riley had a story. But it,
yeah, I can see that. I guess I kind of saw it as a little bit more tied together in that like Joy is fighting for like we control this glowing thing, and then it's Anxiety. The second half of the movie is like Anxiety's like, no, we control the identity, and then by the end they both like put hands off, and they're like, no, Riley decides, and so then like Riley is the one who then like forms her identity, and it's a mix of all the like memories and emotions and then
you know what, Ben, you've won me over. The way you're describing it is profound. I feel like you're unlocking an understanding, a deeper understanding of this movie. And I'm not being sarcastic.
Well, sweet. Well, I like it because, like I said, it works. It's like, oh snap! Like literally the end of the anxiety attack. The way that Riley gets over the anxiety attack of her heart's throbbing, she can't focus, is literally when Anxiety and Joy let go of control. And she like forms her identity and she takes a breath.
And I guess what I'm having a revelation about is that it really isn't to the movie's detriment that Anxiety and Riley are first and second fiddle to Joy's third fiddle in this movie, in my opinion. Because you're right, they all do end with the same resolution point that really teaches them all the same lesson in a way. And so I don't know, I guess I just still wish that Joy was a more memorable character because she's the heroine. And the parts with her in it are not the parts that I remember as very impactful. The parts that I remember are the parts with Anxiety and with Riley. And I don't know. I just think that's interesting because Joy is the hero of the story, and I want to be, more invested in her story. Yeah.
Well, there's a line that Sadness says, or no, is it? No, I think Joy says it to Sadness. She's like, I guess teenagers have less joy or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's why Joy's less. No, I'm kidding.
Honestly, maybe my criticisms of this movie are the lesson, like the movie is teaching me, like, hey, I want more joy. Well, guess what? You don't always get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
More alien slime coming right up.
Are you tired of the same old bland breakfast cereal? Well, look no further than Incredible O's, the official breakfast cereal of Mr. Incredible and Pals. This delicious morning treat is not only the best tasting cereal, but it's packed with vitamins that will help you grow strong like Mr. Incredible himself. Incredible O's, now including frozen Ice Blast shaped marshmallows. Get a Mr. Skipper-Doo toy in every box. Look for it in the cereal aisle. And watch Mr. Incredible and Pals on Saturday mornings at 8. What was that? Getting pulled from the air? Superheroes illegal? Product recall? This will put us in the hole, no question. What are we going to do with all these refined grains coated in synthetic sweetener? Oh, no!
Here, there's transformation. Monsters come gentle and leave ferocious. We're the creeps, the ogres, the krakens, the Martians, the yetis, who want to scare for a living. We come of all shapes, sizes, colors, and textures. We're a family, bound by a common bond, tradition, diversity, friendship, and excellence. Whether your talent is causing screams or designing the canisters that capture them, Monsters University is a place to find your truest calling and reach your highest potential. In the words of Dean Hardscrabble, scariness is the true measure of a monster. Open the door to your future and become the monster you are meant to be at Monsters University. Building tomorrow's scares today.
Here's your refill. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Well,
but no, I also do want more fear.
Oh yeah, I'm with you there. There was fears like, and maybe it makes sense now with not having Bill Hader. Maybe that's a part of it too. Of like he just struck gold, but on the first one. But I do like all the lines where he's just like, anxiety or embarrassment will say something, and he's like, yep. Like,
yes. Oh yeah, I loved fears like. I don't know. He was on board with anxiety from the moment she showed up. Yeah. And that ties with my earlier point about how they're kind of linked emotions. And the movie did a good job of distinguishing them, but it also let that similarity bleed through into the story because you see anxiety has a lot of empathy, fear has a lot of empathy for anxiety and her agenda. Yeah. And it's interesting to see how he kind of admires her.
Yes, I know. I love that. That was great.
But he's still my favorite character, by the way.
Yes, no, love fear. Okay. All right, let's end by wrapping it up with our final thoughts.
Okay.
The Claw.
All right, Gare. What did you get out of the proverbial claw? What did you pull out of this movie?
So I actually didn't prepare anything. I totally forgot that we were doing the Claw. So I'm just going to wing it. What I got out of this movie was a good time with my wife. We went on a date night. We got some chicky filet. Got a couple hours where Lachlan stayed with Grandma and Grandpa, and we were having a good time. But no, seriously, what I got out of this movie, I do think is a fun sequel that I think is memorable. I think it is honoring the first movie. I don't think it's one-upping the first movie. I don't think it's stepping on the first movie, but it is definitely worth your time if you enjoyed the first movie. And it's doing a lot of nuanced things to teach kids and adults about how their minds work. And I think it's beautiful and it's poignant and it's discussion worthy and all of the things. And yeah. My wife and I enjoyed it. What did you get out of the proverbial claw machine, Ben?
Well, I pulled out some serious stuff, man. So I pulled out a buzz attached to a Woody.
Oh, that's meta.
No. So this movie, just like the first one, is a master class in psychology. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is crazy. So obviously the biggest lesson learned here is, as we talked about earlier, is about that, emotions don't control who we are. We choose who we are. Now that is a psychology masterclass lesson because I've been going through therapy for a number of years now. And after many, many years of like working through stuff and figuring out a lot of this, past stuff I've been through and how it correlates to my emotions now, dude, like, okay, Pixar is literally giving you like gold by giving kids, giving adults, giving people these lessons that took me a lot of money and a lot of time to learn this. So thank you, Pixar. And where were you years ago? No, but like, seriously. So just like, I would say like, two quick takeaways, and then I'll end it. The first takeaway is this idea that emotions don't control you. So that's a huge psychology lesson because when you have lots of negative emotions, let's say anxiety, for example, if you get super anxious all the time, for some people, it can be debilitating. Like you can be so anxious about whether it's social things or whether it's about, whatever your thing is, OCD, whatever, it can get to the point where it literally controls your lifestyle. Maybe you can't even get out of the bed. And this idea that like emotions, like they come in, they go, and they're not like, they don't choose who you are, you do. And so that is so empowering. My counselor, my therapist, he used this analogy of like, imagine your emotions are like you're standing at the side of a river, and there's this flowing river that's going by you, and there's leaves that are falling from the trees on the river, and they're passing by you. Well, imagine those leaves are your emotions, okay? And so some of those leaves are like super angry emotions. Some of those are fearful emotions, and whatever they are. Some of them are happy. he said they're just leaves, just let them go by. They don't have they don't have to take hold of you. They're just emotions, just like thoughts. They come and they go, and they don't have to affect the way that you make decisions. So that's just a quick little analogy that shows that you can control your emotions. And in this movie literally tells kids that, which is so cool. The other thing is that I went to this retreat called the Healing of the Whole Person retreat years ago with my wife, with Sarah, and one of my biggest takeaways from that retreat was they use this analogy that basically imagine you go through something traumatic. Okay, you go through a traumatic experience. Someone hurts you really badly. Imagine that experience causes a seed to grow. Okay, so then that seed of that painful memory painful experience causes you to believe something about yourself, and a lot of times it's for self-protection. Like you believe something like, I'm never gonna let someone in again because of that seed that happened to me. So those are the roots from the seed, okay? And then from those roots forms this tree, and the tree grows from that, and the tree that grows from that can then bear fruit, and the fruit that can be born from that tree can a lot of times be things like anger or anxiety or addiction and all these negative things. And all of those bad things, they all stem down from one bad experience and negative beliefs that you believed from that bad experience. And if you go down that psychological path and think about trauma, you can actually track down behaviors that maybe you don't like about yourself and how that's rooted towards something that was really bad that happened to you, that you were innocent, it wasn't your fault kind of thing. And that was for me a huge psychology lesson, a huge lesson in healing for me. And that's literally this movie. Right? Literally the strands of beliefs. I was watching it and I was like, what? That's literally this psychology workshop that I went to. This is amazing. So for me, that lesson from that retreat that I went on definitely has impacted my life. It's impacted my marriage positively. And we're getting that same lessons to kids in the animated movie. That is incredible. And again,
I love that.
Yeah. And again, it not only is helpful for yourself, but going back to the empathy thing, it also allows you to then have empathy for people who are going through a lot of stuff and thinking about, the painful seeds that they may have gone through. So I love that lesson. I love that we're giving that to kids.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I second that. You said a lot of things there at the beginning that resonate with me, and my thoughts that I haven't yet processed on the movie, because I haven't really had a chance to really talk to anyone about this movie. Okay. And that is something that is really, really cool. The idea that our beliefs are something that can sometimes stem from an emotion, if I feel really, really sad, then I want to blame, something within myself, but maybe it's not, maybe that's not who I am. I don't know how to completely iterate the thought that came from you. That I'm now processing, but you know what I mean. Emotions don't necessarily dictate who we are. Especially if you're experiencing anxiety or something like that. But it can even happen with other emotions joy, sadness, fear, anger. So yeah.
Cool. I mean, it's so true. You can have a negative experience where maybe you hurt someone or you say something mean to a friend, and then they say something to you you are this blah blah blah, and
right, and then you believe it because that's oh man, there's a lot to explore in the world of Inside Out. I feel like they may have unfortunately they may have launched a franchise here. And that brings us to some news.
Extra, extra. Got your Pixar news right here. Read all about it.
So I don't know if you heard about this, Ben, but this movie is doing extremely well. I don't have any numbers pulled up, but let's just say this movie is breaking a ton of records.
Wow. Wow.
Doing very well. And yeah, so it is no surprise that Disney recently announced they're making a Inside Out series for Disney Plus.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I guess that means we'll get to explore this world more in the form of a TV show, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I felt about a sequel to begin with, and I ended up liking it, so maybe I should be optimistic this time. We'll see. But yeah, I wanted to share that with you. I don't know if you heard that. Also, unrelated news from Pixar. We're getting a new Andrew Stanton directed Pixar movie. Whoop, whoop. Woo! He's doing Toy Story 5, and I couldn't be more happy. He is credited as I believe he's credited as a writer on every single Toy Story movie up to this point. And he was there way back at the conception of the original one. So if there's anyone who's still at Pixar who's qualified to direct Toy Story 5, Andrew Stanton's the guy who I'm going to put my trust in. So, yeah.
He's the man. Well,
I'm optimistic.
Pixar's probably like, oh, Lightyear. Yeah, didn't do too well. But we got to do Toy Story 5 to probably, I'm sure a lot of it's financial, unfortunately. But they're probably thinking, oh, we need to kind of like dig ourselves out of that hole with Lightyear, some of the fails that we've had there. So if we're going to do this, we need to go all in. We need to make this like legit. So, Andrew Stanton, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, so that's what is the news that I was going to share. Inside Out 2 is great. Go watch it and form your own opinion. And I'm really glad that you enjoyed it, Ben. And it's really good to see you and to talk to you. And to hear your very deep thoughts. I apologize. I did not get very deep in this episode.
Hey, that's the beauty of doing this, is because some movies we resonate more with than others. So,
well, yeah, that, and we also, this is the first time I've ever recorded with no notes. This is the first time we've ever recorded a week after seeing the movie that we watched in question, and this is the first time that we recorded this late at night. So those three factors are all contributing to my brain being bzzz.
And you're a dad now.
And I'm a dad now. I got dad brain. That's a thing.
We both have it. So
yes, we have dad brain.
We like to apologize for dad brain for future episodes and this episode.
Indeed. So yeah, we don't know when we'll see you again, but thank you for watching / listening, and make sure you follow and subscribe and all those things. And yeah, let us know. Let us know on social media. Reach out to us. Let us know what you want to see in the podcast. If you have any thoughts, questions. I don't know if we're ever going to do like a question answering episode. Probably not. I don't know. We don't really get that many.
Yeah, I think fan mail would be cool. I'll explore that.
Yeah. So anyways.
Cool.
Do you have anything else, Ben?
I think that's about it. Yeah. Just thank you guys so much again for listening and for joining with us for another season / era of this podcast. It's been amazing. I think
it's called Pizza Planet, Ben.
Oh yeah, Pizza Planet.
It looked like you had forgotten.
What's the name of our podcast? No, it's been amazing. And I think Gareth, me and you, we would be doing this anyways, just like chatting about it. But actually taking the time to do a podcast for me is 100% the reason I'm doing this, is definitely to number one, to see you, Gareth, and to chat with you, my friend. And also for the response that we've gotten from friends and family who have wanted to hear more. So thank you guys for listening, for journeying with us. And Gareth, my friend, thank you. I'm so sad that I can't be with you in person. I hope someday we can do that. I know I miss you, brother. So someday, hopefully, we won't need a screen to do it. But hey, if this is the way we have to do it, I will gladly do it. Joey, Garrett's holding up his dog Joey, who's waving goodbye to you guys. It's super cute.
So keep it an O for onward,
because adventure is out there
to infinity
and beyond. And pizza out.
Out.